So we finally have it. Black Flag Resynced. Now, it's not a remake, it's not a remaster or a remake, because technically it is remake, because what they're doing is, from what I understand, is that they're using the new Unity engine, or whatever engine they have called Unity. I think that's what it's called. I may just be throwing a bunch of stuff out there, but apparently they're using that to just make Assassin's Creed Black Flag as if they were just making a new game, but they're just going back and just remastering and remaking. Basically, it's technically a remake. It is a remake. Like, there's I can't say it's a remaster, because one, they're adding and removing content, so it's quality of life update. It is a remaster at this point. They're calling it Resynced because obviously within the lore you sync into the memories or into the game, the history, lore, all that. That's what it's called. It's called syncing in. So they're calling it Resynced, but I think there's a lot of problems. I think there's a lot of upsides to this, and I think there's a lot of discussion whether this is actually good for the community or this is actually a cash grab. Now, why do I say that? Well, because they're actually not adding a lot of content to it. Instead of releasing the game as it was 13 years ago, they're actually removing content, and they're adding some content, and they're refining. What they're doing is refining the game, and it's going to be a quality of life update. So it's going to have a massive visual update, and it'll have updated and refined gameplay mechanics, like the combat, parkour, stealth. I think which is really cool. In fact, they're actually adding, because I'm actually replaying Assassin's Creed Black Flag right now. They don't have any sort of, like, the stealth mechanic in the game is just not that good. Like, anytime I'm moving around, my guy is just walk, like, you don't, like, the stealth in the game is just very subpar. Like, you're just walking around and standing around or running around. You don't really crouch or you're being sneaky unless you're in tall grass. And I don't think I need to be in tall grass for my assassin character to try to sneak or try to crouch or do something. But they're actually adding a crouch function or a crouch mechanic in the new Resynced. So they're refining a lot of the mechanics, especially around the combat too. So there's going to be new parry mechanics as well. The way that the pop-ups connect, like when you know that they're about to hit you or whatever, they kind of have a lot of that changed. But the only downside with this is they're not adding multiplayer. They're not, I don't know what they're doing with it. This is, from what I've known, this is from IGN as well, not the best source, although a somewhat verifiable source. This is from what I'm understanding and taking in. They're not adding in multiplayer at all, which is a shame. Multiplayer is a revolutionary game and experience for the Assassin's Creed community, because not only is that one of the most pivotal moments for multiplayer for Assassin's Creed, I don't even think there was a multiplayer function before that, and I might be wrong here, obviously take it with a grain of salt, but I think Assassin's Creed Black Flag multiplayer helped it so much because there were so many content creators back then making videos on it. And one of my personal favorites back then, the Gaming Lemon, was making so many videos surrounding that. I mean, I don't know, the amount of videos I've seen him release was like the Black Flag, the Manhunt, and all that. It was good. Multiplayer was a necessity for Black Flag, because even back then, I loved Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag, and I just didn't have too much of a hook for the campaign as much, because I just wasn't as in tune with the pirate theme as much as it was just trying to be about assassins. But multiplayer really did compensate and made it such a beautiful game. And so the fact they're not even adding that is kind of concerning with me and obviously a lot of other people in the community. And not only that, they're not even adding the Far Cry, or I think it's called the Far Cry DLC, the DLC with it. They're not even adding that. So it kind of makes you wonder, is this kind of just a cash grab? Is this just like, is it not only going to be a cash grab to buy the game, that I could just load up the previous game and get the same experience, if not better? Or do I buy the game and then also get riddled with microtransactions? So it's like, is this a potential W? Is this a, no, it's kind of controversial. I think a lot of the community is still kind of looking at it in a positive light, because for me, I like that now that this game's getting a quality of life update, that most of the kids and most of the, younger people of this generation will be able to experience this game like I have when I was younger. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm only, in my early 20s, but I played this game when I was like barely double digits, right? So it's it was a pivotal game for me in my livelihood. I think it definitely could be for the next generation or for the next, the younger people that like to play this game or want to play this game, especially Assassin's Creed, because let's be honest, they're kind of taking a dive. They're not really doing the best or making as much money as they probably think or as they already know, but as much as they could. And that's unfortunately because they're stemming into it's and don't get me wrong, I haven't really played the newer Assassin's Creed, so this is really not the best. I'm not going to be the best person to be like, okay, this and that, like, oh, it's, whatever, but it hasn't become pivotal enough for me to latch onto these games or be like, oh, this, I need to learn this or I need to play this. Like, I feel like most games and most movies, most anything, after one of something, it's hard to make a sequel for it or make more of it and it still be like as good as it was originally. And I feel like Assassin's Creed has gotten to that, just like, most other companies like, Activision with Call of Duty and stuff like that, where a game is just so good at one point that you kind of over dilute it with other games and it kind of just isn't the same, it doesn't hit the same, and it's not as good as it was before. On top, so besides all that, they're adding a lot of things. I think another thing they're adding is they're adding some players or like some new characters to it. So I mean, it's kind of like the trade-off is just like unfortunately, I'm still gonna get it. I'm still gonna play it because I really like Black Flag Assassin's Creed. It's a good game. I just unfortunately, I just don't want to say this is a completely good thing. I feel like this is like it's like as good as it is. I feel like there's some cons to this that I'm just kind of like, now is this really necessary? Do we really need this at this point? So no Far Cry DLC or whatever it was for Assassin's Creed. It may not even be called Far Cry. I think I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, I think if it's not Far Cry, this I'm pretty sure it was yes, not Far Cry, Freedom Cry. Freedom Cry will not be a DLC added to this along with multiplayer, which is just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, those are just like, and I've been seeing some mixed reviews where it's like multiplayer is fine, we don't need it, but the DLC, it's like, what are we doing? And I'm over here like, so I'm one of the very few that actually really appreciates multiplayer and thinks it was very pivotal for Ubisoft or Unity, whatever it was. And it's kind of weird that they're not having a multiplayer with it because Assassin's Creed as a company doesn't really have multiplayer games. And I may be wrong about this. They may have dipped their toes into the other games and stuff like that, but I don't really see them having multiplayer games where they can't extend a server for multiplayer and revamp it a little bit. Because I'll tell you what, right now, if they revamp, okay, if they had multiplayer as well added with this and had some microtransactions added with it, where it's like character things like this, kind of like the OG one, it would make sense as to why they would possibly even charge us just as much as they were as if it was just like the OG launch. But unfortunately, it's just the single player with removed content and some slightly added content. And it's like the slightly added content is besides the added some character development and story, it's just refined gameplay mechanics and visual upgrades. And it's just like, is it worth it? Is it a cash grab? And I'm kind of on the fence of thinking that it's as good as it is. It's kind of just, I feel like it's Ubisoft's way of trying to get themselves back into the game. And I don't want to hate it on it. I really don't want to kind of like, underplay what it can be and how good it will be. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be amazing. I'm going to probably stream it at some point and actually be able to play it. I just think the underside of it is just what we could have gotten, what they could have done, and just like what they removed just doesn't make sense. Basically, I just feel like what they removed and what they could have kept with there, or what they could have added, just it was just kind of like why, like you really could have had a gold mine. Like biggest example, and it was very like it was they didn't even have to do it. The OG Star Wars Battlefront games on the PlayStation 2, and I don't know if it was on the Xbox, they relaunched it, not even quality of life upgrade, like I think it was maybe the slightest, but they relaunched it with multiplayer servers, and I played it day one. It was bad, but it was just like it was bad. It was bad. You rarely worked, and I played some games. It was fun, but it was the only reason it drawed me to it was because there's a multiplayer with it. It was a fun game I played when I was younger, and there's multiplayer with it. Of course, it's gonna draw me in, and like it did with me, it did with many others. Many people played it, and it drew a lot of people in to play Star Wars Battlefront and to pay it just for probably even the multiplayer experience. So it's kind of weird that Unity or Ubisoft is not trying that with Black Flag Resync. So that's kind of the only downside. Um, so get this, they don't mind getting rid of like the multiplayer, like a fucking thing that like, yes, we need. They're gonna add pets to your jackdaw or your ship, so now you get to have a parrot or or a monkey on your ship. Thank you, Ubisoft. That was what made me want to buy this game. In fact, I'm gonna pre-order this game just because of that. They're adding pets to your ship, but they wanted to remove multiplayer. That was the call they wanted to make, and that's why I'm gonna get the game, because it's like, yeah, of course, I don't want to play a game mode that was very pivotal to my childhood. I wanted pets on my ship, so that's where Ubisoft is trying to lead with this. I mean, I don't understand. It's like more good than bad, but it's just kind of just like very concerning. I think it's very concerning and almost controversial to a degree. Although I don't very see a lot of people speaking on it or putting much hindsight into it or insight into it, which that's why I kind of want to make this video, and which I haven't really explained much. I kind of just stepped right into it, which is why I'm trying to step into this content, which if you're this far into the video, thank you so much. I make a lot of different videos and it's not this style of content, so I thought, why not? I like speaking on certain things. There's some things that I have like a lot on my mind. Like I have a lot on my mind when it comes to certain topics, and I feel like this was one of those where I wanted to elaborate on because I seen a lot of people talk about it, at least just more on like the social media aspect of like posts and comments, not really full formatted videos like this talking about it. And I feel like I wanted to be somewhat one of the first to talk about it. I'm not gonna be one of the first to talk about it, but I wanted to be one of the first, at least maybe me wanted to shed some insight onto this, or maybe even put some perspective or even throwing some opinions into the mix. I'm not gonna have my opinions are not that good all the time probably, but I like to imagine that like mothers, I think multiplayer is an experience that we definitely needed with this new update. It was very pivotal for the game, for the company, and definitely for me in my childhood. DLC weirdly not being added, but we're getting pets put on our Jackdaw ship, which is again amazing. I'm so glad that they added that. That was the right call, and obviously they were listening to the community when they said yes, we needed monkeys, parrots, parrots. I'm blabbering on. Anyway, so that's where it gets to a point where it's kind of controversial. So, oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention they're removing most of the modern day story. So the whole lore behind what's you sinking in and the story behind it and the lore with like how you're part of this company and how everything fits in and why you're part of this and why you're experiencing this is being removed. So I'm wrong. Assassin's Creed 3 leaves off with you exploring the cave and being synced into the machine and having modern day scenario, modern day missions or just modern day parts, because it helps elaborate on the lore of Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed Black Flag does the exact same thing, and I think in a wonderful way. In fact, I was just I'm playing it right now, not like right now, but like in the time span of this video, and like in the past, like I've been playing it, and it does it perfectly well. In fact, I don't even know why they're removing it, because I think there's a necessary, and I don't want to say minimal, but there's not a whole lot of modern day missions and modern day scenes and parts, and so I feel like this is one of those where they're cutting corners and not trying to add things because they want to appease us, but like, oh, well, we added pets on your ship, but we're also removing multiplayer and modern day mission scenes and all that. It's just like, why are we doing that? If you're trying to appease us and really be like, hey, this is for the fans, then I feel like it would be necessary to add this. And if it's not going to be now, let's hope that it's in the future. So I think that's really about it. So thank you. Yeah, that's it.